podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No breaks. No breaks. No fear. No fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
We made it through a bank holiday weekend with no rain-offs and plenty of action to look back on. I'm Ian Brannan. Joining me this week to look over the big stories is Eastbourne and Swindon co-promoter. It's Lee Kilby. There was a bank holiday double-header for the Aces and the Panthers, and another max for Dan Bewley.
Learned from today's meeting, we came on strong towards the end, so just keep that going and hopefully get a win away.
We'll also hear from Hans Andersen. Another thumping win for Wolves, this time against Ipswich. We'll hear from team boss Peter Adams.
I was surprised, not that we won, but by the margin of victory.
In the Championship, it was all square between Edinburgh and Redcar twice. We'll chat to Charles Wright, the Bears team boss Jade Mudgeway, and the Monarchs duo of Ritchie Worrell and Sam Masters. And in the National Development League, good win for Leicester against Armadale. The thoughts of Dave Howard and Nathan Greaves. All to come on No Breaks, No Fear.
No breaks, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome along then, lots to talk about from the weekend just gone, and as we head into another week of British Speedway, there is plenty of action lined up and lots to get excited about. And to talk through all that action, somebody who knows the sport very well from various angles, because not only from a commercial point of view, but also as a co-promoter and growing up around the sport as well, as the son of one of Swindon's greatest ever riders, the legendary Bob Kilby. Pleased to say Lee Kilby joins us, and it's great to have you along, Lee. Thanks for joining us, and lots to talk through.
My pleasure, no problem at all.
Well, we'll start with just a little bit about Speedway in general first up, because since our last episode, it's been announced that Somerset will not be returning to the tapes. The Speedway in Somerset is no more. The Hancock family, unfortunately, unable to proceed any further with the sport there. They can't make ends meet financially with it. A huge loss to Speedway, firstly, isn't it, that this track has gone? And it was a fantastic venue that so many people have enjoyed great nights at.
Obviously we all felt something was going on there when it was announced that the clubhouse there had been sold. But they've graced every division of the sport. They've had some of the best riders there as well, and the racing was superb there all the time. So it is a big loss, and it'd be a real shame. From a personal angle, that Swindon Somerset fixture and vice versa was always really good, and it's really sad. It'll be a shame to see the sport go there.
And a focal point for people going before the Grand Prix, of course, as well, with the pairs being staged there for many years. It was one of the key parts of the Speedway calendar, really, of that big weekend.
Yeah, and they did that brilliantly every time. I went to quite a few of those meetings, and always well presented. They ran a really good meeting, really good show down there. And like you say, how many thousands of us have taken that meeting in around that Cardiff weekend? And it makes Cardiff slightly different now, because for those of us that used to take that meeting in, because we won't have that luxury. Obviously, the pairs eventually, next year we'll go back somewhere else. And we'll just have to wait and see how that develops. But yeah, it's a real shame, and I feel for everybody connected with the club there.
Swindon's probably the next track on the way to Cardiff. Would that be something you'd be interested in staging if it was available and everything came right?
Oh, be most definitely a conversation we would like to have, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, because again, it just ticks that box of location and people travelling down and through across to Cardiff. So yeah, all being well, we'll probably be discussing that later in the year. Myself, Alan Rossiter, Terry Russell, and Steve Park, and we'll see what we can come up with. But it would be a great thing, that.
And what is the situation with Swindon at the moment? This work is ongoing. You're not riding this year. Just tell us a little bit about that decision to not go ahead and where things are at. Because with the closure of Somerset, it's natural, I suppose, that some fans are maybe starting to get a little bit twitchy looking at Swindon and hoping the same doesn't happen there.
Yeah, you read a lot, don't you? I read a lot online, and again, a lot. I understand where people are coming from with it. People are ultimately disappointed that the stadium hasn't been done yet, and that's where a lot of the frustrations come from, and that leads to some moans and groans and some feelings that it's never going to happen. But the work was announced. We took the year out initially because of the stadium development primarily, But as a management team, we just weren't sure how the year was going to go in terms of COVID and what the restrictions were going to allow, whether we could use the bars at Swindon. I mean, we have a the Legends Lounge hospitality suite, which is a great puller for us, and we get a busy bar up there with lots of hospitality. And if we couldn't use that, it just meant that we would lose part of our sponsorship angle, and a nice chunk of income that comes into the club. So it was, for the club's long-term future, I think it was a sensible call. It's disappointing for us all, most definitely, and it still is, even though I'm involved elsewhere. Not having Swindon to run, support and cheer on is difficult, and so I can feel where our fans are coming from with that. But we've been told that the work will commence in the summer. We've heard numerous rumblings and rumours. There's things going on within the stadium now. People are attending with plans and bits and bobs. So yeah, we're just waiting on news, the same as everybody else is. Obviously, we only rent the stadium on meeting nights, so we don't have any say over what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. But I can assure the fans, believe you me, as soon as we have any positive news on it, we'll be passing it over. But we're planning for next year. Myself and Roscoe are speaking every week. We're good friends anyway, but we're chatting about the stadium and the team and what we could do next year. So we're positive. The glass is definitely half full, and we're planning for when we get the thumbs up, and we're looking for next year.
And seeing how things have panned out now, because when you're making that decision, it was a little bit of an unknown, I suppose. Seeing maybe a little bit more what's in the envelope and how clubs are going now and racing's underway, was it the right decision to do what you've done, do you think?
I think we would stand by it, yeah. It's obviously because I am involved at Eastbourne. I've seen what's got to go into getting these meetings running, the work that goes in, and again, you hear a little, moans here and there about clubs and what they've been able to put on and the limitations within the stadiums. But the work that has gone in from every club to get racing at their respective tracks is immense. I can't tell people how much work goes into it. And you're under the microscope in terms of councils watching what you're doing and making sure that you're following protocols. So it's a big decision to run Speedway. And ultimately, I think because of the stadium development, there was two angles for Swindon not to run, and that was the current restrictions and situation we're in across the world, across the country, and the stadium. So I think just taking that back step will ultimately have when the stadium comes back, secured our long-term future, and that was the key for us, really. And it was tough. It was a tough decision. We're on a Zoom call as a management team, and me and Roscoe live it through and through. And when we found out, we were extremely disappointed. But like Jessica says, it was the right thing for all concerned at the club, I think.
Okay, well, everybody wishes you all the best for the upcoming next year, of course, and mention there that there might be a possibility of a pairs event into the mix as well, or something like that.
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
that would be good. And we should mention too that obviously you've grown up completely absorbed in Speedway as the son of one of Swindon's greatest ever riders, a rider that people still talk about today, Bob Kilby. There's a fantastic education and introduction to the sport that now is taken over your life as well.
Yeah, I was saying to somebody, I was chatting with Nigel Pearson about it again last week, and saying, to have lived with Speedway every second of every day for my whole life, to then not have it was hugely difficult last year. It was you'd lost a lot, like you'd lost a member of your family, and it's been there. I can't remember a time in my life where there wasn't Speedway, and just everything that surrounded Dad in Swindon. He was such a star down there. Everybody liked him. You couldn't walk around the town centre back then in the late 70s, early 80s without people stopping him in the town centre or at the shopping centre. It was incredible, really. It kind of passed me by as a youngster just how good and how popular he was. And it's amazing he doesn't, not a day passes where someone doesn't mention him or recall a story or somebody will send me a picture. So I'm blessed to have had such a fantastic dad who was, awesome Speedway rider. And I think if he had the opportunity to come back, he'd do exactly the same again. Some people say he didn't really achieve everything that he should have done, but he wouldn't do anything different. He had an incredible time and has left a wonderful legacy. Everybody remembers him fondly. So it's great. And it's just instilled in me, my two sons, Max and Samuel, they love the sport. They travel around with me wherever they can, and it just goes down through the generations, and there's so many families and stories like that up and down the country. It's great.
Yeah, it does seem to be definitely a family sport. You find that it gets in the family and sticks there, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a guy that sponsored the meeting at Eastbourne versus Poole, and it was his 80th birthday, and he was there with his daughter and his grandchildren, and it's lovely to see that. And that's how we hope that keeps on getting passed down through the generations. And I keep saying to these people, if you've got somebody that's never been before, bring them along, give me a shout. We're more than welcome to come along and experience it, and let's get some new people hooked into the sport, because once it gets you, it certainly gets you.
On to business then for this week, and it was a lunchtime start, bank holiday Monday at the National Speedway Stadium for Bellevue Aces versus the Peterborough Panthers. An exciting match, a close match, another maximum for Dan Bewley, and it came right down to the very end, and it was a 45-all draw from the first part of that fixture. The return leg was later on in the day, but here's Nigel Pearson calling Heat 13 at the National Speedway Stadium.
Heat number 13 it is then, with Brady Kurtz going off the inside in red for Bellevue. Gate 2 in white is Bjarne Pedersen, very impressive so far today for Peterborough. Gate 3 in blue is Charles Wright for Bellevue, has been fairly disappointing by his own high standards, and Chris Bomber Harris is going off the outside gate. 1 and 3 for Bellevue here, 2 and 4 for Peterborough. It's Peterborough who lead by 4 with 3 races to go. Heat 13, crucial race, and an away first time of asking, and Brady Kurtz has hit that first turn, but Bjarne Pedersen tries a really clever switch up the inside, but down the back straight. The Bellevue boys are able to pass Pedersen. Great move from Brady Kurtz and Charles Wright. Wright has now got to hold the inside run because he's got Bjarne Pedersen and Chris Harris all over him. Pedersen inside again. The lead is with Kurtz. He's gone. Charles Wright hanging on for second spot. This would level this meeting with 2 races to go at 39 all. The lead going into lap 3 now is with Brady Kurtz, Charles Wright second, Bjarne Pedersen third, and the man at the back is Chris Harris. And I've got to tell you, Brady Kurtz is well clear here. It looks like he's riding a rocket ship as he enters the final lap, and with his teammate and partner Charles Wright behind him, it looks like Bellevue are going to level this match up with 2 races to go. A classic Premiership showdown here. Here, round to the line, comes Brady Kurtz of Bellevue, followed home by Charles Wright. That's a huge 5-1 for Bellevue, and it now means that with 2 races to go, it's Bellevue 39, Peterborough 39.
And it ended all square, 45 all, but the Bellevue Aces needed a 5-1 in Heat 15 to fend off a defeat against the Peterborough Panthers. In that heat was Brady Kurtz and Dan Bewley. They did the business with that final heat 5-1, and Dan Bewley got himself a maximum and a chance to chat to Dave Rowe as well. What a day for the lad.
Yeah, good meeting for me today, but we got a draw, so hopefully we can just do a little bit better tonight at Peterborough. But real cool meeting again for me. Heat 15 with Brady was a lot of fun. Tight first lap, but we got a 5-1 for the draw, so good end to the meeting.
Very tight first lap when Bjarne Pedersen came through and looked like he might upset everyone, but you and Brady went either side.
Yeah, he had a good go, and I think two, maybe 3 of us hit the fence on the back straight, but we came out with a 5-1, so can't complain.
Do you think the team as a whole got a bit caught out sometimes in a morning after early afternoon meeting? The track is very different. Did that catch a few out, do you think?
Yeah, maybe. With the sun, they put a lot of water down, but Peterborough, their riders rode real good, so you can't take it away from them. We've just got to do a bit better tonight.
We've got to say well done for yesterday, to go to an away track. I know you had a good mission there at the end of last season, but to go there and beat Dudek and other experienced riders, Zagar and Frick and so on, to get a maximum there, that's another massive breakthrough for you.
Yeah, it was cool, and I really like that track, and it was good because last season it was real grippy and raining, and yesterday it was like concrete slick, so real cool feeling to get a maximum, and another one today to top it off. Do you get any time to sleep? I mean, you straight off to Peterborough now for tonight's meeting? Yeah, a few hours last night, so we're all good.
All good for tonight then?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Peterborough, so hopefully we can learn from today's meeting. We came on strong towards the end, so just keep that going and hopefully get a win away.
Well done, Dan. Great to see you riding so well. Thank you.
He's absolutely on a mission, is Dan Bewley at the moment. Maximum in Poland, 15 in that one, and then with no spoiler alerts, but he scored 14 in the return leg later in the day, dropping just that 1 point through the course of the last 48 hours or so. Terrific stuff, and the Bellevue Ace is off to a terrific start in the league as well, Lee.
Really strong, and again, when you think Dan's plane hopping, like you say, and he's rushing in last minute to turn those points around when you're living that life, that's good going, because a lot of riders like to get to the track early, set up, prepare, be completely in control. Dan's obviously no problem jumping out of the van into the pits, onto the bike, and away he goes. But that's an awesome return from him, and we want it from a GP perspective. We really want to see that. That's great to see him doing that. But like across the whole of the Premiership, I just think it's going to be tight. I think all teams are relatively. I think there's going to be a few surprises, as I'm sure we'll talk about with Wolverhampton. Their score against Ipswich in a moment. But yeah, there was no surprise to see Bellevue go to Peterborough and win for me. In the same way, there was no surprise to see Peterborough go up to Bellevue and get a draw. So I think it's going to be one of those seasons which ultimately at the start of the year, when myself and Roscoe were in the room with all the Premiership promoters, that's what we wanted. We wanted to have a really close division this year with close meetings, and hopefully taking the season to the wire.
It wasn't long to wait for the chance to have another go then for the two teams. Back to the East of England arena for Peterborough Panthers against the Bellevue Aces. It finished Peterborough 40, Bellevue 50. Top scoring for the Panthers in the evening session, though, was Hans Andersen. He's been chatting to Dave Rowe.
It would have been nice to start the season off with a win, especially the performance the team put in this morning meeting away at Bellevue. But again, you got to remember, not all of us has really raced the bikes for nearly 2 years, so myself included, so just getting more and more laps in, it's nicer.
When you're racing someone like Dan Bewley, who is really the hottest thing in the sport at the moment, he's fantastic, you had to really ride defensive, and he just got you on the line in one.
Yeah, I know, I don't mind losing to Dan. The way he's riding, he's a fair rider, and he's just showing pure class at the moment, and obviously it would have been nice to get one over him, but He's a man on fire at the moment and the man to beat. He maxed out in Poland yesterday as well, maxed out at Bellevue. So yeah, it's not too bad to lose to him, but I gave him a good run.
Obviously more to come from this Panthers team, because it was a good draw this morning, and clearly Biane's not going to score 0 every home meeting, or we certainly hope not.
Again, there's a lot of new things. Biane had a new engine today which he hasn't tried before, and there's also this tyre issue. Some might not feel the difference, but I feel a big difference with these tyres compared to what we used in the past. It's a different way of setting the bike up, but it's something we're just learning every meeting.
We'll come on to the tyres in a moment, Lee, but looking at the Peterborough Panthers lineup, no scores for Bjarne Pedersen and Jordan Palin in this particular fixture, which is surely not something that's going to continue that way. But on the other hand, one of their star men was Ulrich Ostergaard, and what an experienced rider to have at reserve in your team.
Yeah, most definitely. And again, we always say, if you can find that reserve rider that can get you those big points, that's the key to getting results in meetings. And I think what we'll find is a lot of rotation. Obviously, when the averages come out, there'll be riders jumping from the reserve up into the main body. And for those teams that have got that little bit of strength in the middle order that will be dropping down into the reserves, that is when you really motor as a team, because no matter what heat you look at, you tend to find somebody strong in your reserve berth. And again, just to shout out, like you say, to the likes of Geordie Palin, who's taken a big step up there this year. He's going to need time. All those boys are going to need time to settle in, and I don't think there's mass expectation on them. I think promoters are putting their arms around them and saying, look, you deliver what you can. This is a learning experience for you. And I'm sure that's what Geordie's getting there, because he's got everything in the tank to do well. And I'm sure all the other British boys at that level are going to be getting the same support.
Tyres seem to be a theme that riders are mentioning a little bit more this season, because a different tyre being used in British Speedway. Riders saying that they're not entirely set up with it just yet. From your experience of Eastbourne so far, has this been something that's been mentioned by riders as well with you?
We've had 2 meetings so far. We've had the Eagles against Pirates, and then we were away at Kent yesterday with the Seagulls. And to be fair, not one of our boys to that point, when I've been in earshot, have mentioned the tyres. I've had conversations with other riders, and they've expressed a bit of concern, more along the lines that it's going to take a little while to get used to them, rather than that they're a problem tyre. I think it's just going to take riders a little while to understand the tyre and to know where they're at with it. But we've had nothing from the Eastbourne angle, as yet, which is positive. But like you say, I've had conversations with a few others that have raised it, but hopefully the riders can figure it out. and it won't be an issue.
Ultimately, 4 points going back to the Bellevue Aces after the second part of that bank holiday double-header. Bellevue's director of Speedway is Mark Lemon, and he's been speaking with Dave Rowe.
After dropping points at home, which is probably frustrating, to come here and get the big four makes it a decent day's work, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always target sort of trying to pick points up on the road because that's the key to sort of get to the playoffs. Yeah, very frustrating this morning. Obviously, the boys didn't get off to the best start, and we'll sort of fighting away, sort of trying to claw back the points, and it was quite difficult, But the Peterborough Panthers were quite tenacious this morning when they kicked off in fine form. Obviously they're fresh out of the box, with their first meeting, so they certainly were eager, and it showed. But yeah, really impressed with the boys, the way they sort of buckled down and went. We had a couple of sort of guys that just didn't quite perform to their best ability, and it's always difficult when you're making changes and switching riders around. But sometimes you've got to do what you got to do.
You'll keep being asked questions about Dan Bewley because he is the talk of the sport at the moment with his maximum yesterday. He's made the SEC and he's got 29 points out of 30 today. The only point he dropped was when he came from 15 metres.
Yeah, obviously got a bit eager there in that heat three, but it's nice when a guy's on form like that. You can kind of rely on. It doesn't always pan out that way, but yeah, like Dan, it's funny. Like 2 years ago when we came here after he had those horrendous injuries, and like his very first meeting back was here and under lights, and I remember the conversation and how he felt, and he didn't score anything that particular night, and to where we are today is just it's an amazing sort of turnaround and fortunes for him, and he's worked bloody hard for it.
Big shout for your two reserves to both score 8, paid 9, paid 10 on an away track. That's give you real strength in depth. Yeah,
I think you saw it this morning when Ostergaard, he scored 11 plus 1 and was probably the fun, the key figure for the Panthers this morning, to get them, the draw. I guess our boys return the favour tonight.
I don't know if you get the chance to enjoy the racing as a team manager, but as a spectacle, to have the sport back in front of a big crowd again here this evening, it's what we've all been waiting for, and it's fantastic to watch.
Absolutely. I mean, last year we did those few meetings behind the closed doors, and it was a really eerie feeling. And I'll tell you what, we've missed the fans, and it's so good and so nice to have them, cheering and clapping and getting excited. Especially when we clinched the draw in Heat 15 today, the limited numbers that were there was static, and pretty much lifted the roof of the stadium.
Great stuff, Mark. Thank you. Well done.
Elsewhere in the Premiership, then, big win for Wolves. Their second big win, actually, of the last week, as they demolished the Ipswich Witches 62-28. Sam Masters top scoring with 13 plus 2. That doesn't tell the whole story, though. There were 3 paid maximums for Peter Adams. I can't imagine he's too happy about that. Let's hear from the Wolves boss now.
Well, Peter, to back up the win and the performance at Kings Lynn with something like that tonight, got to be delighted with the way the boys have started this season.
Yeah, we're thrilled, obviously. They all look very sharp, they're very hungry, and we saw, obviously, Kings Lynn's first home match. They lost at home to Ipswich, so we went there expecting to push them close at least. So I was surprised, not that we won, but by the margin of victory. And I think the sentiment's the same tonight. We expected a strong challenge from Ipswich, but never materialised.
Yeah, what pleased you most about tonight's performance?
Well, that's a hard question. I don't know, I mean, they were just terrific, weren't they, from start to finish, and the track suited them down to the ground. Track staff have done a fantastic job, and they're all comfortable on the track, and they're hungry for points, as you can see.
Yeah, very early days, obviously, but I know in the season preview you said you expected big things from Nick Morris this year, and a great maximum. Certainly looked a totally different rider to the one we saw in 2019.
Yeah, obviously he was carrying, some serious injuries in that season, and we never saw the best of him, but he's determined to have a good year this year, and I thought he rode excellently. I wouldn't want to single him out because it was a complete team performance with Sam's maximum and Luke Becker's first maximum for Wolves, so huge number of positives to take from this, but as you say, it's very early days, and we certainly ain't getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, back-to-back fixtures against Sheffield coming up now. Obviously being tipped as one of the favourites as well, and like you say, newcomers to the Premiership. Looking forward to going to Alderton on Thursday night.
Yeah, I've got to find it first. I ain't been there for nearly 30 years. The last time I was there was a challenge match where Nikolai Clint rode for us and broke his shoulder in a crash with Ricky Ashworth. So I hope nothing like that happens this time, obviously, and yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Well, you need to stick in your sat-nav, Peter. A61, Penistone Road, Sheffield, just near to the Hillsborough football ground, and you'll be fine. You'll find Sheffield easy enough. Peter Adams there speaking with Ryan Guest following that huge thumping of the Ipswich Witches. Monmore is a tricky track, isn't it, Lee Kilby, who's with us in this episode, and it's sort of track that can undo the best of rider on its day.
Yeah, and I don't think it matters how many times you race there. Well, I think, again, when you haven't been on the bike and you haven't done that many meetings, when you go somewhere like Wolverhampton, unless it's one of your preferred favourite tracks, it can catch you out. And I for one never saw that scoreline. I thought it would be a lot closer than that. Wolves are one of my tips for the top this year. I think they've built their team really, really well. And like we were saying earlier, I think they've got rotation from reserves into the team and down again. But that really was a surprise result. But obviously, the track suited the Wolves on the night, and they did extremely well.
Let's get a bit of an Ipswich Witches perspective on things then. The team boss, Ritchie Hawkins, has been speaking to Ryan Guest.
Yeah, it was we wasn't a great performance. We were slow out the gate, which we haven't been. We've been very good for the first 3 meetings. And then when we did get in a good position, we were making mistakes. So it's one to put down for experience. Still, the boys should have learnt a lot tonight. So we'll be back here later on in the year, and it's certainly not, nothing's won and lost yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, how important is it to look at the bigger picture to how well you have started the season in general?
Oh yeah, it's fine. It's not a disaster. It's like I say, we're going to need to come back here. So we need to take a lot of learning experience from this. It's probably set a bit of a precedent that we need to, how good we need to be, or need to improve. So it's not, it's not good to get a hammering like that at all. But we can certainly take positives, and as long as we win Thursday, then it's okay.
Yeah, like you say, positives. Drew Kemp rode really well. Just looking at Jake Allen and Jordan Stewart, obviously Dave came into the team late on, and in particular they struggled here tonight.
Yeah, I think really happy with Drew, because if you get a last in Heat 2, to come back from that, it's very tough, especially for a young lad, and he's come back and then had 3 seconds. So extremely happy with him. I think, to be fair, Jake had just one of them really. I don't think he was far off being very good positions in his first couple of rides. Just got squeezed out, and then it's just turned into a real rough night. Jordan's never been here and rode the place before, and it's obviously a technical track, so for him he looked a lot better in his third ride. Gained a lot of knowledge, and he's learning the tracks again, which is really it's so hard when you've never even rode a place before, your first time out, especially at the start of the season where you're a bit cold, and so I think Geordie's improving during meetings, so I think he'll go okay Thursday.
And the perfect response obviously would be on Thursday, getting another derby victory over Kings Lynn, who would now of course include former witch Richard Lawson.
Yeah, they got, to be fair, Kings Lynn, look, overall they're not a great team, but round Ipswich I think they could be a very good team, because they've got a group of riders that go well at Ipswich, so with a lot of experience at Ipswich. So I think if we slack off slightly, we'll get punished. So I know it's a local derby as well, but I think just overall we need to win Thursday. We need to get ourselves back in winning ways, but if we let our standards slip, they'll beat us. So we're going to have to be on top of our game.
Many thanks for talking to us, Richard.
No worries, man.
Ritchie Hawkins speaking to Ryan Guest following that big defeat against Wolves, and a bit of a surprise really for everybody that, and it's surely not how things are going to pan out for Ipswich. We know they've got more in their locker. It was just a bad day at the office.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I thought it would be a close run thing there, as I think a lot of meetings will. I didn't expect to see that scoreline, and I don't expect to see it very often. Really, I think it'll be much more like the Peterborough Bellevue fixtures. But again, it's one of those when everybody fires, everyone fires, and you get that type of result. And all it takes is for 2 or 3 of your main body to not perform. I know Danny King got 9+1 for them and top scored. But when you look through their team at what's been going on at the other tracks, those boys have been coming in with a lot higher scores. So it's one of those. You're always going to get them. There's always going to be that anomaly result that throws everybody off, and that this week was most definitely that.
There was a particular incident in Heat 13 which saw the three-time world champion Jason Crump crash quite spectacularly. I think he was on bend 3 of one of the laps, and the bike reared up. He somersaulted across the track. Luckily, the other riders managed to avoid him. If you see the footage, they did a great job getting their bikes out of the way, and experienced riders in that heat as well, including Danny King, Rory Schlein and Sam Masters. Sadly, Jason Crump has been confirmed to be injured and is going to be out of Speedway for a few weeks. He's got at least 5 broken ribs, so he's currently in hospital. Our very best wishes to Jason Crump for a speedy recovery, and we hope to see him back in British Speedway before not too long. As far as the Wolverhampton Wolves are concerned, their next trip takes them to South Yorkshire. As Peter Adams mentioned, he's going to be looking up on the map where Sheffield is, because he's not been there for so long. And this is going to be a tasty clash, though, isn't it? Because a big difference in terms of the size of the track to what Wolves are probably used to riding. But the Wolves riders going to be no strangers to the Ollerton circuit, because many have ridden there in the past.
Yeah, and you can't get two tracks. You can't get two tracks further away from each other in terms of the shape and size and riding style. So it'd be interesting to see them going up there, especially on the back of that win at home against Ipswich. But I think we were all excited about visiting Sheffield because, from a Swindon perspective, we were looking forward to that because we haven't done it for so long. And I think all those teams will feel the same. You'd like to think the riders will be okay because a lot of the riders are doubling up, so they'll have had a visit there in the championship over the last few years. But it'd be interesting, really interesting to see these guys going up there, and I think it benefits everybody to have a track like Sheffield and a club like Sheffield in the top division.
And Sheffield, of course, picking up a couple of the Swindon riders who weren't able to take their place, particularly Troy Batchelor, of course, who's racing there this season, but as yet really to live up to his reputation for Sheffield.
He had such a good year with Swindon last year. He really did. He often didn't get the plaudits and the credit he deserved last year because the team was so. Keep saying last year, 2019, because the team was so strong at Swindon with Jason and Troy, Tobias, Rasmus, Adam. It was a really strong team we had, and I think Troy, he'll get there. He'll get used to that. He'll get used to when he's been with Swindon for a few years now, on and off, and it's almost his English home track for sure. And when you have that change, that you didn't necessarily want, sometimes it does take you a little while to get used to the switch and used to the change. And it's not just the track and the team you're racing against, it's everything. It's your team manager, it's the club itself, it's the drive there, it's everything. So we know what Troy's capable of, and he will most definitely come good at Sheffield. There's no question about that. And having Adam there alongside him is obviously going to be a big bonus, because that is a little bit of home, if we can call it that, from Swindon.
Yeah, and the rider I think that people are most excited about too with Sheffield is Jack Holder, who was unable to make the most recent fixture because of problems with international travel. I think mainly he couldn't get back rather than he couldn't get here. That was the issue. But when he's, as we've seen in the fixtures that he has ridden for Sheffield, particularly the one at Bellevue, that he is going to be a frightening talent really as the season goes on.
He absolutely is, and I think we've seen that progression from Jack over the last few years, and we saw it at Paul. You could see a difference in his riding, the way that he's attacking the track, and the more action you can get over in Poland as well, I think is that makes you raise your bar. And I think he could be one of the outstanding riders of the Premiership this year, no question at all. He's got everything in the tank, and a lot of people feel he can follow Chris and get right, follow Big Brother and get right to the top. And I don't think I would question that in any way, because I think he's got what it takes. He's got the right mentality, he's got the right backing and support. And again, while he's at Sheffield in the UK, he's got a great club behind him.
So Sheffield v Wolves on Thursday, and then the return fixture on Monday next week, back at Monmore Green. The other fixture on Thursday is it's the Old Farm Derby, the return already. It doesn't seem 2 minutes since Kings Lynn versus Ipswich, and already it's Ipswich versus Kings Lynn on Thursday night back at Foxhall. Kings Lynn, of course, making a key change. Craig Cook is out, Richard Lawson is in, which was quite a big surprise, I think, to many fans for such a big change at this stage in the season.
I don't think anybody would have seen that coming. It certainly wasn't one that I saw coming. In respect of, we know what Craig can do. When Craig's riding, he's riding well. He's phenomenal. And to score 11 points in his opening meetings was a great return. And I've spoken to a couple of people close to Craig, and in that second meeting, the setup, he just couldn't find it, and the track possibly didn't suit him too much that night. And when the news came out, it was a bit of a shocker. It really was. And sometimes I think a rider, ultimately a break away from a club can do them good, and they find their feet again and they go again, and we can only hope Craig will do that in that top division. But I've seen very close hand already this year what Richard Lawson is capable of with Eastbourne, whether it just be from a practice perspective or a racing perspective, and he's going to be a good signing for them. I've got no doubt about that at all.
And Ipswich, off the back of that defeat against Wolves, they'll be looking to put that right, and with a strong performance against Kings Lynn, there's no better way to correct the record, is there?
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. There is no better meeting to go into than when you've had a heavy defeat to come into that derby fixture, and that local angle really does edge it up. And I know the crowd all get fully behind it, and it's special meetings when you get those derbies. They really are, and they'll be wanting that. I would imagine that meeting to come as quick as it possibly can.
So that's Ipswich versus Kings Lynn, Sheffield versus Wolverhampton next in the Premiership. And looking ahead to about the next Monday, it's going to be Bellevue versus Ipswich, Peterborough versus Kings Lynn, and Wolves versus Sheffield. I think we've covered all those teams already. So those are the fixtures for next Monday. Next, we're turning our attention to the Championship, and we'll kick off by looking at Birmingham, who are taking on Redcar later on this week. And of course, one of the clubs that Lee Kilby is involved in. That's all coming next. We'll hear from Erik Riss soon.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Ian Brannan, and joining me in this episode this week is Lee Kilby, who's co-promoter at the Eastbourne Seagulls, and also at Swindon, and is involved in the commercial side, helping out at the Birmingham Brummies. I'm going to turn our attention to the Brummies now, because they're in action this week against Redcar at Perry Bar, but got their season off to a great start with a trip up to Berwick a week or so ago, and a great way to get your campaign underway there, Lee.
Yeah, me and David Mason were in comms the night that the guys were up at Berwick, and ebbed and flowed, and they kept on the coattails early on of Berwick, and then just seemed to turn it around, and bringing the likes of Scotty Nichols into guest is class. You know what you're going to get from Scott, and it was a great result. Me and David Mason was like, wow, I didn't really see that result coming. So it's a great start for them, and now back to Perry Bar. Eric in the team is going to be excellent for the crowd to see Eric round Perry Bar. And again, I think Birmingham is strong. The David has signed well. Having Paco Castagna at reserve, on his day, Paco could go out and beat everybody in the field. So it'll be a good meeting, and obviously Erik Riss against his former club.
Yeah, well, we've been catching up with Erik Riss. He's been speaking with Ryan Guest.
Well, Erik Riss, obviously since the 2019 season, it's been a long journey for yourself. A lot of hard personal decisions have had to be made. Just how tough was last year for yourself?
Yeah, it was really tough at first. I mean, I ended up having no meetings at all. A few other guys were riding in Europe as well, so at least they had something. But most of the UK guys just had the UK, and we ended up with nothing. And at first, it was really hard for myself, because if you felt like you were standing still, and everyone else was improving. But once I got over those kind of thoughts, I focused on my training, and I used the time off to become even better.
Yeah, for yourself as well, there was obviously that hard decision when riders didn't know whether to commit to British Speedway. At first, that was something you weren't going to do this year, and then a late change of heart sees you back with Kings Lynn and joining Birmingham in the Championship as well. Yeah, well, last year in December I was signed up with Redcar, and it went into January and things were still looking really bad. I mean, the vaccine wasn't out yet. There was no plan for the league yet. And I was stressing because the year before I was waiting for so long in the UK to get started, and eventually nothing happened. And last year I turned down other offers in Europe, and I didn't want the same to happen again and be without meetings completely. So made the decision to sign in Scandinavia. And a bit after I had done that, things started to look
a lot better in the UK, and it started to look really promising. So, for me, that decision wasn't so hard as turning down the UK, because I always want to ride in the UK, because where I'm at in Speedway, for me, the UK is the best thing. Riding 2 leagues, having bike time, and also I have to earn money somewhere.
Yeah, meetings under your belt with Kings Lynn already. Obviously missed Birmingham's opener, but your first meeting for Birmingham going to be against Redcar, obviously the team you were due to ride for in 2020. You won the Championship Riders Individual in 2019 with them as well, so going to be an interesting debut for Birmingham.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I'm really excited. I don't know why. When you ride against your former clubs, it's just a bit, more exciting, because I know all the riders there really well. I was used to riding with them, but now I'm riding against them, so it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and at Birmingham as well, got Chris Harris as the number 1. Do you feel you can challenge him for that number 1 race jacket this year?
Yeah, definitely. That's my only goal all year.
That's Erik Riss there, who's detailing the thought process that he's had over the close season, originally deciding to give Britain a miss this year and gave up his team places, but then changed his mind, and that ultimately turned out to be at the benefit of a couple of clubs, one of which is the Birmingham Brummies, Lee. So that was good news for you.
Yeah, huge benefit to Birmingham. It's been such a horrible time for everybody. You're trying to sort your personal lives out, because everybody's been affected in some way with what's going on. And when you chuck into the mixed racing speedway across Europe, it really is a crazy time for everybody. And the fact that he got himself into a position where he could commit, I think, is great for the sport over here to have Erik racing. He's a quality rider. And it's exactly what Birmingham were in need of, was that big hitter up at number 1. We saw Adam Ellis step into that position for Birmingham partway through the season last year and transform the team. And I think Erik being in that position where you've got somebody can hit double figures on a regular basis just eases the pressure on the riders underneath him, like James Shanes and Ash Morris. So yeah, it's a great signing, and we're extremely pleased that Erik has made the commitment to race over here.
Next up for the Birmingham Brummies are the Redcar Bears, who got their championship season underway with, 2 fixtures against Edinburgh over the course of the bank holiday weekend. First on Friday, the return on Teesside on Sunday. Both fixtures finishing 45 all, so absolutely no splitting the Bears and the Monarchs. Robin Allen went to the Media Prima Arena. We're going to hear from Jade Mudgeway, the team manager of the Redcar Bears, in just a few moments, but first let's hear from Charles Wright, the team captain.
The way the track was, we obviously had 2 and 4, which is hard in the first couple of races, but then the gates went better as 2 and 4 were better, so the way it worked out, we were always off the wrong sort of gates, and we were just struggling getting off the starts today. But the track wasn't the same as normal, and obviously it was such a hot day, it was hard to get the water in, and it was overwatered, and then it was icy, and then it was just a bit inconsistent, not what we used to, so it probably suited the away boys a bit more. But we'll take a draw. We drew out there, so it's like we've won a meeting, so we'll take that.
Now you look at the performance of James Sargent down at reserve, and it was brilliant stuff.
Yeah, James, he's got a lot of experience on his side now, so he's good to have at reserve, and he had a good one at Edinburgh, a good one today. So Jordan Jenkins is doing well, and also we can't fault the boys here. Just if we're all firing at once, I don't think anyone will beat us, but it's early days and everyone's starting off again.
Then you look at Anders Rowe, it was a bit of an up and down meeting for him, but that win where he went from 4th to 1st, that was something else.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Anders is probably, if he was at reserve, easily the best reserve in the league, but he's still a strong in the team as well. He's banging the points in the top league, this league, so it's good to have him in the team.
And then for Tofty, it was a tough one because he was just struggling out the starters, like I said earlier.
Yeah, like I said, the way the track was and that, it was very hard to get right, and it's no one's fault. It's the weather, that's what it does sometimes, but I don't think we have any afternoon meetings for a while where it's as hot as this, because we're used to running at like 7:30 when it's a bit cooler, so the moisture stays in the track. So.
And obviously they did the best that they can, and there was a lot of breaks where they were working on the track, and in the end they got it, so it was easier for you to ride, and it wasn't, so then it was icing.
Yeah, like I say, and whoever went out when they just walked the track, it was a bit icy, but after then, we probably should have left it a bit after it was watered, just let us settle in a bit so it dries out a bit. But you've got to get on with the meeting as well, and the fans, you don't want them sat around waiting all day.
And then you look at Heat 15, and that was a massive race, and you did the business, you went and got the win, but you were under a lot of pressure from Ritchie there.
Yeah, Ritchie was making it work around the inside. I was heading for the dirt, but there was nothing out there, so I come back to the inside, and then he weren't going to go around because the inside was the quickest line. So we got the draw, I got the win, and it's a confidence boost for myself, and we still got a draw. It's not a loss.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
So there's Charles right there making the point about getting a bit of confidence under his belt. It has been a long time. He did sit out the previous season. It's been a long time. And I think all eyes have been on Charles, haven't they, Lee? Because he's got that place, of course, in the Bellevue Aces lineup as well. And maybe it will take a little time to fully find the groove.
No, and I think a lot of that is potentially down to the expectation. When you win that British Championship, suddenly your bar is raised and you're getting more eyes looking at you, and that's exactly what he's got. But he's a class act. We've seen it. We've seen him beat we've seen him beat everybody, especially the two divisions that he's in over here at the moment. The riders he's up against, he can beat them all. And again, when you've had that period of time off the bike, it's not easy for everybody just to jump back on and go again. Some people will take a little bit longer to find their feet, find their wheels, and get comfortable with it. And I think that's the case here. But we've got no question that he'll end up being a class act again this year. I've got no question about that.
Well, the Redcar team boss Jade Mudgeway thinks the Bears should have been taking all of the points away.
Disappointed, really. I think we should have had the win there, but maybe got caught out by conditions, a little bit unlucky. But we should be good enough to get on top of that. But we will for the next one. It's just the first match in it. Everybody's a little bit rusty. So.
Was it difficult for the fact at both meetings against Edinburgh you were in front and then you ended up sort of like getting clawed back?
Yeah, well, I sort of knew that might happen when we were at Edinburgh because they're number 1, number 5 are so good round there. So really, when you come to Heat 13 and you come to Heat 15, they should have clawed us back a little bit. Charles seemed to hit his form a bit more today. With a class rider like that, he's always going to work it out and get back to the front. So that was good to see. I think next week, a night meeting, things will be different. We can get a bit more moisture in the track, and our riders will like it a bit more because our biggest asset is this track. So.
And the riders were struggling out at the start as well.
Yeah, I think everyone is just a little bit more up and down at the start at the minute with the new tyres. There's nothing wrong with the new tyres, but it's just different. So everybody has to find their setup, find their sweet spot. So they'll get there. It'll just take them a bit more time.
Then you look at James Sargent at reserve, and he's showing that he's got experience in this league now, and he's a powerhouse down there.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I couldn't believe he was still around, really, when we needed someone on his average. He's a class rider, he's got the experience. He was making good gates today and clever first bends. And when the track's a little bit like it was, a little bit slick and a little bit patchy in places, then that's the perfect way to ride, isn't it? And I think he fully deserved his place in Heat 15. I think he just didn't quite get out in front of the gate, in front of the other two, otherwise he'd have been in the points there.
And it's good experience for him because a rider like him, although he's got that experience, not often has he been picked for Heat 15, so it's a good experience.
Yeah, definitely. I say he thoroughly deserved it tonight. Got rider of the night, so yeah, I think he'll kick on. He's got that experience. He really should be riding as a number 4 with the experience he's got and the talent that he's got. So I think he'll get there by the end of the year, and he'll be that sort of rider.
Then you look at Anders Rowe, that every other track he's been making starts, and then today he was having to do a lot of work from the back and going from 4th to 1st. That was some effort.
Yeah, he looked really impressive when he got it wound up, but I think conditions just didn't quite work his way either. That's an experience thing, but he's a class act, didn't he? And I think when we get back to normal meetings here, he'll have no problem with you banging in the points.
And again, you look at Tofty, and Tofty again, he's beating himself up because he's struggling, but it's one of them things, particularly with the day meetings, that Speedway's not the easiest when you're in the daytime.
No, and I say Tofty was our star at Edinburgh, wasn't he? I think today he was unlucky. He seemed to get put out right after every track water, and if you're getting both races, 2 of your races straight after the watering, and you don't quite make a start, it's hard work. So I'm not worried. I think the lads learned something today, and things will be different next week.
And overall, you're pleased with the effort and the fact you dug deep at times and you showed the power that you can be.
Yeah, I say there's still more to come from us, but I'm relatively happy. I think we'll go away from here knowing there's more to come, and we didn't give everything we had tonight, but the lads all put the effort in. And I say to them before the match, as long as we all give everything we've got, what can you ask for more?
Well, the star men for the Edinburgh Monarchs have been Ritchie Worrell and Sam Masters. I'm going to hear from them both now. And first of all, Ritchie Worrell certainly thinks that the development of the youth in British Speedway is starting to bear some fruit.
The whole setup of it now is good, yeah. It's with everything that's going on in British Speedway, I think it's opened a lot of doors for the British guys, actually. It's put more British guys in seats. And, hey, back the Brits, I'm all for it.
And then, of course, you had Jordan Palin that came in as a guest, and he showed he's good around this track at Redcar.
Brilliant guest, Jordan. I think he's definitely going to be one to watch in British Speedway as he gets older and rides more. Cracking guest, did a good job for us. Brilliant job, actually. Yeah.
And it was like what I was saying to some people earlier, that these riders, they need a chance in the championship, and once they get it, you've just got to ride the wave, and you'll be rough patches, there'll be good patches.
Yeah,
you've got to make the best of it.
Of course, this sport's very difficult to learn, because I've come all the way, and there was a lot of effort gone into getting here, and I've only ridden that bike for 5 minutes. There's not much you can learn in 5 minutes, so you've got to ride as much as you can, and ideally with better riders, because you learn from them, even just being in the pits. So yeah, they do. They need to be in this league, and they need to be in the league above as well, just to learn off them. It's only way they're going to get better.
Now, for you at Edinburgh, it's good to have Speedway back, and it was great to have the fans back in the stadium on Friday.
Of course it was, yeah. It'd be nice to see more, but obviously once restrictions ease, hopefully there will be. But definitely good to be back.
As Ritchie Worrell speaking with Robin Allen. And while Robin was in the pits, he grabbed a chat with the Edinburgh Monarchs captain, Sam Masters, who himself scored 16 points in that fixture. And he says it was an all-round team performance, though.
The team's got to do their job, and everyone's doing their job. So we can't complain, that's for sure. It's I think we should have a good season. So after beating having a draw with a good Redcar team, can't complain.
Now, obviously in the team this year, you've got a few people in there that are still learning, and you with your experience is only going to be good for them.
Yeah, that's it. It's my job to help the guys out, and as well as I'm captain, I'll help them all out. But we all work together good. We're all getting on pretty well, and that makes it fun, and that brings points too, I think.
And obviously you were without Joe Lawler, and Jordan Palin stepped in, and what a guest. He's got a big future.
Yeah, what a rider. He took him a couple of races to get it sorted, but he was good in the end, and he helped us big time today.
And that's Sam Masters, the Edinburgh captain, chatting with Robin Allen. Next up for the Edinburgh Monarchs, they've got another North East double-header weekend, because on Friday they host the Newcastle Diamonds with the return on Sunday at Brough Park. Newcastle have parted company with manager Darren Hartley, meanwhile, on a dramatic press day at Brough Park. The Diamonds have appointed Nigel Hinchliffe as their new boss, but they've also got a fitness doubt over number one Ben Barker, who suffered broken fingers in a practice crash during the press and practice session. So, needless to say, that press and practice didn't go exactly to plan, but we'll see what happens with the Newcastle Diamonds. Good luck to them on their opening meetings for this weekend. Also, one of the upcoming fixtures later this week, it's one involving your team, Lee. You're making the trip from Eastbourne to Scunthorpe on Friday night, and a new experience for you there as well.
Yeah, a track I've never been to. Obviously, with Swindon, we've never crossed swords with Scunthorpe, so I'm pleased to be doing it with Eastbourne, and it's a track never visited. Looking forward to it. It'll be a good meeting, and we've seen what Plymouth achieved up there not long back, and the boys will be all over it. The guys are just dying for more activity, more action, more racing. We had a great opener against Poole the other night where we sold out in terms of crowds, so it was a great atmosphere. It went down to a last heat decider. Started off with a 5-0 against. So the guys are all up for it. We're just keen to get out and race as much as we can now and get everybody back dialed in, as they say.
While you're enjoying the hospitality of Rob Godfrey at Scunthorpe, the other fixture will be Glasgow versus Poole. And As a fancied team yourself with Eastbourne, you would fully expect that Glasgow and Poole are going to be there or thereabouts come the reckoning.
I would say they both are. We know they'll be up. We're confident Eastbourne that we'll be up at the top end of the table, and we see both of those sides, up there as well. Both very strong. And speaking about Poole, they were superb at Arlington the other night. It's one of those again. They've turned up. Most of the boys have not had a lot of activity, and to be fair to them, they just got out there, got on, and I think you know what you're going to get from the likes of Rory Schlein and Danny King, Stevie Worrell. But I was very impressed with other riders in the makeup of their team too. I thought Daniel Hume rode really well. Again, Daniel hasn't had that much activity, but I thought he did really well at reserve, and he'll be getting good support down there from Danny and Matt Ford and Midlow. So going up to Glasgow, I think that's going to be a great fixture. It'll be a great fixture, a really close one, I would think. And like you say, they'll both be up there or thereabouts at the end of the season.
Time will tell, of course. Good luck in those fixtures as we're heading towards this weekend in the Championship. Next, we're going to turn our attention to the National Development League. Been another busy week for Leicester in particular. And we're going to hear from Dave Howard, the Leicester Cubs boss. We'll also hear from Nathan Greaves of the Armadale Devils as well. All on the way here on No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Ian Brannan. My special guest helping us host this week's episode and looking at all the action is Lee Kilby, who is the co-promoter at Eastbourne. And yesterday you were in action in the National Development League, Lee, with the Eastbourne Seagulls, who were taking on the Kent Royals, and it ended all square, 45-45, but Eastbourne going away with that extra point there, 2 points to Eastbourne, 1 to Kent, and it must have been a satisfactory afternoon on the south coast for you.
It was a great opener for all concerned, I would have thought. I spoke to Len Silver afterwards, and he was really happy. He was happy with his crowd. He was happy with the way the meeting went. And I think the draw was a fair result. It was some superb racing from all the riders. Again, a lot of them quite rusty, not had much activity. So to go out and put on a meeting where they all rode well. And what was great to see was a couple of the younger riders, the likes of Josh Warren for Kent and Dan O'Verge for ourselves. They haven't had much activity, and they just took their time, took it steady, and you could see the word from the management had been, go out, get used to it, get a feel for it, and build on it, and you've got the support no matter what you score. And I think everybody left Kent yesterday with a point in terms of the riders, and for Eastbourne to get 2 away points, I thought was a cracking result for us. It really was.
Bit of bad news with Henry Atkins coming out through the course of this last week as well, which is a huge blow to the team, isn't it?
Yeah, he is. Henry was there yesterday. He's that kind of type of lad, and he lives near Richie Andrews anyway, so he'll probably be coming to a lot of the meetings. But when I moved into Eastbourne, into the role, and I was looking at the two sides, I couldn't believe Henry's average at NDL level, because he's way better than the average that he's got, and I think huge things were expected of him in that position. But sadly, he picked up the incident was so innocuous, didn't even hit a bump, didn't hit the fence, just the shoulder popped as he was coming down the end of the straight. But he's going to have it operated on. He was really positive yesterday, said, look, it is what it is, you've got to deal with it and crack on. But he was in the pits, he was moving around all the riders yesterday and supporting all of them. He was changing wheels and working on change. It was great to see, and it was really good team spirit. But we knew that in Dan O'Verge, there's a rider there that was in the plans initially at the start of the year, who has stepped back in and was fantastic last night. Himself and Connor King, I'll give a big pat on the back to for their performances at Kent, because they stepped in and scored really, really strongly in that middle order of the team, and that's what gets you results. So yeah, really pleased. That's a shame for Henry, but we know he'll be back with the Seagulls next year, and he's got a big future ahead of him, Henry.
And a couple of new teams, of course, in the National League this year, particularly the Berwick Bullets and Armadale. It's always great to visit new tracks, and always great to get new teams back in Speedway.
Yeah, definitely. We talk about, and I know they're second teams of other teams. We talk about losing Somerset to the sport, but then we must look at the teams that are trying to develop and add National League teams into their clubs, and it's great, because it just gives more and more riders the opportunity to ride, and that's what it's all about. And that's what I liked about the Eastbourne project, was that there's an MSDL set up, there's the National League, there's the Championship. You know, we're offering riders of all the different levels of the sport an opportunity to race, and it's great that other clubs have come on board and are doing that as well. I know the Premiership have got their own development league activity going on as well this year, which offers riders the opportunity, which is fabulous. So it's good. I think there's it's a nice division. I really enjoy working at that National League level, because it's great to help riders of that level, you know, just with different aspects. I can't tell them how to ride the bike. My father told me very soon on in life that it wasn't for me, so that's not my speciality. But, you know, I know how the sport works. I know the mentality of a rider, what they go through, and it's nice to be able to work with them at that level.
Looking at some of the results from across the weekend in the National Development League, on Friday, the Bellevue Colts avenged a first leg of that tie victory for the Berwick Bullets, 51-38. Harry McGurk top scoring for the Colts with 13. And another max for Leon Flint. He's absolutely flying in that league with the 15 points. And then on Saturday, it was the Leicester Cubs versus the Armadale Devils. It was an incident-packed evening which saw Joe Lawler have to withdraw from the meeting, so concerns for him both at Leicester and at Edinburgh. And Dave Rowe was there. He caught up with the team boss, Dave Howard.
Dave, I don't know where to start. They're very eventful indeed, but probably a night where third places were as important as race wins.
Yes, obviously it was very, as you say, very eventful with George Rotherham and obviously Joe having to pull out, Joe Lawler, and obviously a couple of the crashes as well whilst races were going on. So, but overall, a solid team performance again. Dan and Joe leading the way, and obviously Tom Spencer as well. Again, a really solid performance, scoring in every race and a couple of wins, and great debut for Ben. And Kai as well in that race when Gregor Miller got past him and he got past him again. So no, a good team performance, as it were.
You could almost feel the crowd willing Ben on to get that 5-1 in Heat 14, couldn't you?
Yeah, I think there's a large amount of Ben's family are here tonight, so they were very vocal, and obviously everybody, likes to see somebody who's so young coming in and really putting it in between riders in the first meeting. So great performance from Ben for his first team meeting after his British Youth victory last night.
How is Joe Lawler? Obviously he's been looking for a race win, he got one, but clearly at the start of that race he did some damage.
Yeah, he says it's a wrist injury that kind of flares up occasionally, but it's not broken, it's more a muscle type thing. And previously he said when he's iced it goes off and he's okay again. But obviously he'll see how he is over the next couple of days, because obviously he's got Edinburgh meetings coming up before our meeting at Berwick next week.
I was going to mention that, a very busy weekend coming up, home and away against Berwick, no time to really turn around too much in between, so you'll need to know, especially from him, what's going on there.
Yeah, I mean he's going to try and get it looked at, I think, in a walking centre tomorrow, so hopefully he'll have some news after that.
Sure. And just finally, we were all hoping that Dan Thompson would get his 18-point maximum, because he rode superbly against Nathan Greaves. Didn't quite make it in Heat 15, but again, it shows how fast they're both progressing.
Oh yes, I mean after their performances last night at Scunthorpe for the Lions, really strong, both getting points from the back, and tonight again leading the way. Yeah, it would have been nice for Dan to get his 18, but 16 is a really good score as well, and he's happy with that. So
sure. Quick word on those Berwick meetings. They're a team again. It's going to be tough at home with the likes of Flint and Bickley. They can win races anywhere. What do you think to expect from them?
Yeah, I mean it's obviously a track that they're good on at home. I think virtually everybody in our team has ridden there in the youth championships and the under 21s last year as well. So I think it'll be a tough meeting there, but so we'll be looking to at least come away with a point.
So not the entire perfect meeting for the Armadale Devils, victory going the way of the Leicester Cubs, but it was the Armadale Devils who finished the meeting on a high with a 5-1 in Heat 15. Nathan Greaves was the first man over the line. The captain of the Armadale Devils has been chatting to Dave Rowe.
Yeah, it's good to finish on a high with a 5-1. It's a shame that we lost by 10 still. I think we're just so close but so far away. I've said it before, we're going to grow. Everyone's going to grow into the season, if you like. So it's a lot of these boys' first time even being in a team, but happy to finish with a win as well.
I noticed you were quite busy in the pits during the meeting, talking to the younger lads, less experienced lads, because it's a learning curve for them.
Yeah, I remember. Well, it's still a learning curve for me. I mean, I'm doing, the same in the higher leagues, going asking, the number 1s and 5s for advice. So I remember when it was my first year in the National League and I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I appreciated anyone helping me. So, it don't feel good when they help someone.
Just a shame that George Rothery had that big crash in his first ride. I know he rode on, but I'm sure if he hadn't had that crash, he'd have scored lots more.
Yeah, I think it just shook him up a bit. It's bad when you have a bad first ride. It's good to get a win in your first ride, and it sort of sets you up for the meeting. And it's a shame he only come with one bike. I mean, I'm sure he's doing his best, but ideally you need 2 because I presume that bike was bent. But it'll come good. I mean, he's got so much natural talent, and like I say, we're all going to grow.
Now, you had a couple of battles with Dan Thompson in Heat 11 and 13. He got the better of you, but then Heat 15, you must have been really determined for that one.
Yeah, I was just making bad first corners. I made every single start and just took it for granted a bit that I made the start and I've won. But no, you're not taking anything away from Dan. He rode well, but just a shame I made them couple of mistakes. But like I say, I finished off with a win, so only as good as your last race.
Like you said, we've seen you for a while on the national level, but is it important for you to carry on with the track time? You're doing championship as well, to have those 2 team places both with the same club?
Yeah, well, I never really stamped my authority on the National League. I only finished with an 8 average, and I felt like I had some unfinished business. I want to do as good as I can in this National League and leave it behind. So I'm happy to be here. It's more bike time, like you say, and just got to kick on, and hopefully we can get some results as a team.
So that's Nathan Greaves of the Armadale Devils chatting with Dave Rowe. Armadale next in action on Sunday when they take on the Newcastle Gems at 6 o'clock. And we've got 2 fixtures between Leicester and Berwick to look forward to. Berwick v Leicester at Shieldfield Park on Saturday. And then on Sunday, the return back at Leicester at 6 p.m. So that's in the National Development League. The other fixture on Sunday, that just to touch on, Lee, is the British Under-21 semi-final at Milden Hall. A few of the Eastbourne Seagulls involved in this. Well, Henry Atkins was due to be one of them. Of course, he's injured. But Nathan Ablett and Chaz Wurtzfield are going to be involved. And some other big names in there as well, like Jordan Palin, Harry McGurk. It looks like an exciting lineup, doesn't it?
Yeah, looking at the lineup, it's a strong field. I mean, Jake Mulford yesterday at Kent had an exceptional meeting. I think he won his first 3 rides for sure. Might have been the first 4 rides, but looked superb. And Nathan Ablett is a rider of that type. He's in the reserve spot for us down there in NDL level, but he's exceptional. Chad is great on the grass and is really starting to now make strides in Speedway. But when you look at that lineup, you've got Jake Mulford in there, you've got Jordan Jenkins, Jordan Palin, McGurk, Parkinson, Blackbird. It's a strong field. That'll be a cracking meeting down there, and we hope Nathan and Chad can do the business and finish near the top of the field.
Absolutely. Best of luck to everybody involved in that. There's also another qualifier coming up for the Under-21 final at Newcastle in the coming week or 2 as well. So we'll probably preview that one next week. But my thanks to Lee Kilby, co-promoter at Eastbourne, also involved with the Brummies, and co-promoter, of course, at Swindon, which we hope to see back in the near future. But good luck for this season, and hope everything continues on an upward trajectory, onwards and upwards, and Speedway is back.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, just a big thank you to all the Speedway fans up and down the country that have come back into stadiums already and put the confidence in us that we're all doing the right thing, because we need them. And it's great that they're all stepping back into the arenas, whether they've got to wear masks and social distance or whatever the limitations are at each stadium. I can guarantee every promoter is incredibly grateful for their support and attendance. So let's keep it going, and let's go from strength to strength this year.
My thanks to Lee Kilby for joining us on No Brakes, No Fear this week as our special guest. Join us next Tuesday for the next one. We will have all the reaction from the big Premiership matches on the Monday. And so those fixtures look like this. The main one on Eurosport is going to be Wolverhampton versus Sheffield from Monmore Green at 7:30. The other fixtures on Monday night, Peterborough versus Kings Lynn and Bellevue versus Ipswich. And we will have all the reaction from all 3 of those matches here on No Brakes, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast on Tuesday. And keep up to date with your favourite club in the meantime online at speedwaygb.co.uk. All the results, all the fixtures, and all the reports and news as it breaks from your club. And you can get a little audio news bulletin as well, which is on the front page, so you can just click on that and have a listen to it to save you the reading. If you haven't got the time for that, stick it on in the background, or you can ask your smart speaker as well. And we'll catch you next Tuesday. Have a great week. Hopefully you're able to get down to a track, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 8 for another episode. No Brakes, No Fear is produced by Nigel Pearson Media Limited. for British Speedway.
No brakes, no fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Sports Social Podcast Network.